Good morning, everybody. This is the third of our new podcast series, which we now plan to do 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Those wanting more detail on what our thoughts and ideas are can find access on our website, simon-hunt.com. Today, I will mostly look underneath the surface of America's economy, but concluding with a few words on why Europe's enthusiastic recovery will probably peter out by mid-year. The new US Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, summed up America's economy so well when he said in a February 25 speech, "The US economy is more fragile under the surface than econometric metrics suggest," and going on to say, reliance on public sector jobs for growth has hobbled the US economy. In fact, since 2000, ex-government spending, the US private sector has been in a long, silent recession, only interrupted by the housing bubble. Another way of looking at the supposed boom in the DJII is to price the index in gold, the unit that has a common value. So priced, the Dow Jones peaked in August 1999 and has since fallen by 67%. At almost the same time, the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index by 2000 at 112 and is now 36% lower. As one sage remarked to us, and rising stock prices are the US economy. The former is mostly the result of the Biden government's fiscal policies, and the latter powered by their friendly power brokers. De facto, you can call it a Ponzi scheme, one that the Trump government wishes to break. Hence, Elon Musk's Doge boys being unleashed on government departments. Once the BLS starts to issue real CPI data, not those concocted by their economists, the truth about retail sales and thus consumer spending will come out. For instance, Larry Summers and his team took the methodology of how CPI was created in 1983, concluding that inflation last year was 8%. John Williams of Shadow Government Stacks takes it all back to prior to Arthur Burns in the 1970s, when he began meddling with the numbers. On this basis, CPI was 10.8% last year. In nominal terms, last year's retail sales were plus 3%, but in volume terms, you can see that they fell by between 5 and 8%. Trump's policies to rebalance America's economy from dependence on government spending towards the private sector, such as small businesses, which are the backbone to America's economy, and away from Wall Street, as they expect to cause short-term pain to the economy and to equity prices. We expect America to be in recession through the first 6 to 9 months of this year, which amongst other factors will mean a fall in the S&P, for instance, of some 20% from peak to trough, and for the FANGs by around 40%. What follows will be an inflationary-driven recovery, hopefully lasting into 2028, which will cause equity prices to soar to new highs, but for long-term bond yields to rise into double-digit figures. Behind all of this lies the tensions running through Ukraine, the Middle East, and increasingly between Washington and Beijing. How these will impact the global economy and equity prices is difficult to foresee. But what is for sure is that between now and 2028, the economy and equity prices will be very volatile. So to conclude, just a short word about Europe. Funds are shifting out of America into Europe. Optimism has been garnered by the prospect of peace being agreed between Russia and America over Ukraine, and by the prospects of the fiscal taps being opened by the EU and by Germany. Given what we hear from sources in Moscow, there is unlikely to be any successful conclusion to the Ukraine crisis or to any peace initiative this year. And there are serious hurdles yet to be overcome before the fiscal taps can be opened up in Germany. So we conclude by saying that by mid-year, Europe's optimism for the economic recovery, which is shown in the surge of European equity prices, will fade away. So until Wednesday's next installment of our short notes. Cheers.